That's the name of your shitty writing website?
I thought it was a good summary of my thoughts on the situation.
Dude, that's a great name for a site though. Like honestly, it's a poorly named site where I post stories. The site has been optimized for sitting down and reading them in a long fashion. It's less a blog and more a repository. To be honest, I don't think my writing is good enough to be published. This site was made out of necessity to limit the efforts of friends of mine who had been plagiarized.
Guys.
What?
We're live.
Oh shit.
Welcome to P&Sing Time. I'm Brian. Joining me today is Alec. Hey Alec, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
And we got Joe in his shitty writing. How you doing today, Joe?
Joe's the best.
Well, what's up? It's been a long week, hasn't it?
It really fucking has.
Yeah. Who wants to talk about that? Or
I'll just make it quick. For those of you who have been to pauseandselect.com, the website that hosts Passing Time, the internet podcast show.
All six of you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we appreciate each and every one of you. You'll notice that we posted an apology post because of some unfortunate things that happened. One of our now former writers plagiarized multiple times and has been removed from the site and everything. And it's been a long couple of days, but we're over it. We're past it, and we're back to making stuff that's original and interesting because we don't fucking plagiarize.
Yeah, originally we intended to do a special on the Valve mod stuff, but the drama of the week unfortunately kept pushing this back to the normal podcast. So today's podcast could go long. Shout out to Ryan Scott, who specifically requested a special. He's one of the listeners. So yeah, I know we dick around and joke a lot, and we're kind of full of shit and know that. And, we bullshit, but we still have some standards and morals.
What?
We've got ethics in games journalism, guys.
Yeah, there is such a thing as ethics in game journalism.
What? Who the hell's Ryan Scott?
Ryan Scott, he's a buddy of mine from college. I actually have quite a few people who listen to the podcast on the reg. He specifically requested last week.
You say? I know quite a few people who listen to the podcast on the rag.
On the reg. On the rag. But,
oh, okay.
He wanted to hear our thoughts on Valve Modgate. So
honestly, I think it's a good thing that we didn't do it because it would have been outdated immediately because Valve rescinded it.
Yeah, talk about crazy. The internet both exploded and imploded in a matter of 4 days over this. Talk about backtracking. For those of you who do not know, Valve and Bethesda announced a paid model for mods for Skyrim appearing on Steam. Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, everything kind of lost its shit for 72 hours before they backtracked. A lot happened. What did you guys think of when you initially heard that paid mods? What did you initially think?
Joe should go first because he wrote an article for us about playing Skyrim mods.
Hey, Spider-Man Joe, what did you think of paying for mods?
Spider-Man Skyrim. So when this news came out, I was actually not as crazily taken aback by it as probably a lot of the people on the internet were. They're actually the Canadian division of EB Games. I don't know if that company is innately Canadian or not, but I'm going to assume that it's just a Canadian division. But
it's a Canadian company that got eaten up by games.
Yeah. They actually used to sell mods.
Yeah.
A long time ago, they used to sell mods, and it was not profitable. It was not profitable whatsoever, but it was incredibly shady, incredibly sneaky tactic. Sort of like for people who are buying stuff for their kids who don't actually play video games. They see something that's like $5 that looks like something their kids would probably like. They have no idea what mods were, and then it's like, oh, okay, my son will probably like this, and then they bring it home and they find out that it's some sort of strange, Command and Conquer General 0-hour super tank mod that the base game their son doesn't even have. So I was actually not taken aback by this whole situation as much as a lot of people would have, and I know you guys are probably curious as to why I was not taken aback by the fact that factoring in it was Valve, and it was simply because Valve actually has a fairly bad reputation for customer service. essentially they have Valve is essentially a company that's very visibly designed by people who generally don't have a lot of customer service experience. It's like if you took a bunch of engineers as the founding fathers, or like a bunch of computer programmers, like really, really engineering and computer programming heavy folks, and then you put them in charge of a company that all of a sudden gets thrust into the forefront of a heavily customer service oriented field. It shows a lot in Valve because their customer service is oftentimes lambasted. Like, yeah, they've been doing a lot of really interesting things regarding pushing sort of the method of distribution for video games forward in a very cheap manner, but I wasn't shocked at all. I was not shocked at all. I actually made a tweet that said I am very, roughly paraphrased, I was very interested in seeing exactly where this was going. I don't think it was going to go anywhere positive. I don't think it was going to go anywhere positive at all. Because the internet is incredibly capricious.
Yeah, that's an understatement. I mean, the reaction last Friday and Saturday was out of this world crazy. People were talking about, they were comparing Valve to EA and Ubisoft and Bethesda, and these are two companies that have garnered a lot of trust and goodwill in the gaming community, and it was just fire and brimstone. And I remember talking to Alec, and Joe, you were probably there too last week, saying that I can't believe this did not happen sooner and with different companies. We should kind of be glad that these are the two companies starting this. Alec, what did you think when you first heard?
You know, I don't use mods. I never really have. I've always been sort of like tangentially interested in the idea. I mean, I think I used some mods for Portal once, and like Half-Life 2, but back in the day. I'm of the belief, and I know you are too, that people should be paid for their work if they want to be.
Definitely.
And so I fundamentally agreed with the idea that paid mods should be an option, something that people can do. And I mean, and I read a whole lot about this, including, you know, I read this long explanation by a former modder talking about two visions of the modding scene. There's the cathedral and the parlor. And the cathedral concept is basically that, you know, it's a team. Anyone can go to the cathedral and work, you know, it's a big collaboration. Whereas a parlor is, you know, the modder opens the door, you go into the parlor, you see his cool thing, but he can kick you out if he wants to and take it. You know, you don't get to use his things, you don't, whatever. So cathedral is you know, open, parlor is not. And I can understand sort of the fundamental appeal of both. I think that the option to give people the chance to make money for this hard work, I think, is a fundamentally good one.
People who've listened to this podcast for the last 3 months know that on a weekly basis I talk about how little people are paid online for the work they're doing, and modders are no exception. Some of these mods on Skyrim,
I mean, modders are paid nothing.
Modders are paid nothing, and some of the mods they put out are better than 90% of Skyrim. There are mods that add whole new cities, factions, campaign quest lines. I'm like Joe, where I got Skyrim on PlayStation just to play vanilla Skyrim, and I knew a year later I would get it on PC and mod it to all hell. Every time I launch Skyrim, there's like 250 mods running in that game because the modding community changes the game. Kerbal Space Program is built upon mods. City Skyline is a huge modding community, and I know not everyone partakes of mods. I think Gabe in an AMA said that only approximately 6 to 9% of the user base of Skyrim actually engages in the mod on Steam. Now that doesn't include the people who use Nexus, which is a popular modding site. The difference between Steam Workshop and Nexus is Steam Workshop only allows, I think it's up to 2 gigabytes per mod, where the Nexus allows unlimited mod sizes. But I also believe the Nexus does have a pay model to use their bigger mods.
No, I don't think so. I think the Nexus, everything's free.
Is everything free?
Yeah, everything is free. Nexus, Individual modders essentially depend upon donation lines on Nexus, but Nexus itself doesn't push modders or users to pay for anything.
Yeah.
Essentially, the costs of their servers and everything like that, they're all pushed into a huge network of, like, I guess, free MediaFire accounts.
Yeah.
Because they have a whole shitload of just like multiple links to like any one given mod at a time.
Yeah. Well, apparently now Gabe has said that they're exploring adding a pay what you want button where the mod author can set a starting amount, but you can basically pay whatever you want or nothing still. He came out on Monday with an AMA on Reddit, and then apparently he did another interview on, I don't know if it was on Eurogamer, and then they pulled it down yesterday night, right?
Yeah, one of these nights.
Mods are a great part of the PC community. That's part of the appeal to the people who engage in games on PC is modding. It adds new legs and life to games. Not to mention, everyone was talking about the potential downfalls of mods, as in it's gonna be a cash grab. People are gonna make shitty mods and charge for them. But isn't that already the case, anyways? Like, if people make shitty apps on the iPhone and Android and charge for them, you would assume that a diligent consumer would either research or find some way to figure out what's the shit and what's the not, and pay accordingly.
The idea, I think, is fundamentally sound, and I think most people, given time, would agree with that, but the implementation was totally fucked. And I mean, and there were a lot of sort of very I read through a whole lot of complaints, and I thought, as obnoxious as a lot of people were in making them, some of them were extremely valid. And I thought the one that isn't necessarily the most valid, but one of the ones that stuck out as the most problematic, perhaps, is that there's a mod called Sky UI, which fixes the user interface of Skyrim. And and just this ridiculous number of other mods require Sky UI to be installed to function because they build on that. And Sky UI became pay only. So even if another mod wanted to be free, the would-be user still has to pay to get Sky UI first. And that is a problem with the community itself. Like, that's the kind of thing that splinters and, like, breaks a community apart.
Yeah, well, to that I would say it is obviously a dramatic change from free to paid. There is obviously, in any change in any sector, the time, like, in between a radical new idea and then the changing and then it becoming the norm is chaos. And yes, for the first month, maybe a couple months, determining, the Skyrim UI mod, paying for that, and all the other free ones, just like in capitalism, everything would work out over time.
Are we gonna fucking get into an economic debate right now?
No. Well, first off, I'm an avid socialist, but I do understand that I do understand capitalist principles.
Uh-huh.
Shit would work out
in a flawless capitalist system, sure.
Yes, but for the most. In any system, there's always someone that's getting screwed. But for the most part, the best mods would filter to the top, theoretically. The worst mods would be overlooked. Yes, some gems would be overlooked, and yes, some people would have to compromise the don't pay me for my work morals. Thank you, I'll take you lying on your shield and giving me your mod for free. But pay people for their work. And the people who really, because there was a lot of people reacting to this. The number of only 6 to 9% of the people engaged in the mods, it kind of seemed like the people outraged was more than that.
I mean, millions of people play Skyrim.
Yes.
If 1,000 people got really angry, that would be less than all the people who use the mod. Like, that's the problem with the internet echo chamber is, like,
it's hyperbolic in an echo chamber. Yeah.
If 200 people get furious and suddenly we have 200 angry think pieces, it sounds like the fucking world is falling to pieces.
And to some extent, that's what happened here. I mean, I think 4 days for Valve to turn around on this is fucking crazy. Alec, you said it was reminiscent of Microsoft backing away from their DRM policies from E3 a few years ago.
But the difference, and this is sort of a key difference, is that the thing that really pushed Microsoft over the edge was what happened on Jimmy Fallon, was when it stopped being just the vocal minority and suddenly it was people who watched Jimmy Fallon who are like, oh, you can't play used games, and then everyone's cheering for Sony. That broke into the mainstream, whereas the concept of modding would never even break into the mainstream. No one gives a fuck. And so it's like it's this weird sort of separate thing where it's like this happens on such a small scale because really very few people care at all. Even within the video game community, just like a lot of people just don't care about mods, but a lot of the people who do care, they care so much.
Passionately.
Yeah.
The ideas Microsoft presented at that E3 were the same concepts that Valve employs with Steam. I can't even remember the last time I played a used video game. And I think the industry was set back by Microsoft backing down. I would argue that the same thing happened with the Skyrim modding scene, that the industry might have been set back a bit. This might be an inevitable future. These companies, it is Bethesda's prerogative and right to make money off these mods. But it is the mod makers themselves' prerogative and right to also make money off their hard work. The numbers came out there were a little wonky, but they are also not outside the norm. The numbers were something like 30, 35, 35, something like that?
No, it was 25% for modders, 30% for Valve, which is just their flat rate for everything, and then 45% for Bethesda.
So I would say you should maybe move 5% out away from Bethesda to the modders, but for the most part, that sounds about right. That sounds like the music industry's.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought the numbers were unfair. I know a lot of people did. I know that the guy who made DayZ thinks they're totally fair. You know?
Well, he was one of the vocal people that came out last week, or just last weekend.
To back up just slightly, I think the one thing, I don't think this sets back the industry because I don't think mods are sort of a fundamental part of the industry. You know, if modding was outside of PC gaming, then maybe, but like, you know, when Microsoft changes their policy, that's one of the big three console manufacturers. You know, it's different than if like this small, crucial, but still small feature specific to PCs, you know, if it doesn't do what it was supposed to. And I mean, and this will come back in some capacity, and because it's like a software thing, because of the way it's put together, whereas, you know, Microsoft sort of shot themselves in the foot, and now they'll be able to bring that back for the Xbox 2 if they sell it right. But like Valve in a month could bring this back, or in 2 months. You know, they're not stuck on cycles the way console manufacturers are.
Yeah, I think
so.
It'll sneak back in at some point, and well, so let's get into it then. I don't think it should have been pulled. I think they should have at least tested it for more than 4 days.
Yeah. I also don't think it should have been pulled, but I think when it comes back, it will come back with all of this feedback taken into account. It'll come back without having been pulled under NDAs. Maybe the numbers will be slightly more in modders' favor. I think this was, they shouldn't have done it, but I think it was also possibly a good lesson. If you're going to do something that is ostensibly community-focused, maybe you should actually involve the community.
Well, that was kind of the most fascinating thing about this, is I don't remember hearing a peep about paid mods. And then all of a sudden last Thursday, Valve was like, oh, by the way, tomorrow mods, you're going to have to pay for them.
The problem is that all of the modders who knew about it were forced to sign NDAs.
It was known.
Well, because some people put it up, like, on day one, and that's because Valve went to specific people and were like, your mod is good, we want people to pay for it, we're going to put it up, like the guy who did Sky UI. He knew about it, but he had to sign an NDA.
Yeah, but I mean, the press didn't know about. I didn't remember reading about this in the press prior to Thursday last week.
Well, the press had no idea because they weren't in on it.
I guess it's back to what Joe says, where Valve is horrible with public relations.
Yeah, a little bit. Joe, what do you think?
I wanted Valve to go full retard.
But you never do that.
So what do you mean by you wanted them to go full retard, Joe?
I wanted them to stick to their original
To their gun.
strange modding business model. I want them to stick to their guns, and in the face of this incredibly angry horde of internet goers, I wanted them to just essentially say, yeah, this seems like the best venue that we're going to go with, just right up to their face. Okay, so there was a good thing in backpedaling because it showed two things. First off, it did show that Valve was willing to react to a lot of negative press, so at least they're a reactive company. The second thing is that there is a good amount of stock in people on the internet, even if they may consist of a minority, that they can mobilize and galvanize themselves into something that will essentially affect how a company operates. And I guess a third minor point is that companies with incredibly goodwill are not exempt from what consumers would conceive to be bad business practices. But the problem here, and this is sort of back to Alec's point about how similar it is to the situation with Microsoft, is that we don't necessarily, because it's been pulled, we don't necessarily see how this situation, how this business model could have evolved, because implementing a new idea is never going to start off optimal, but killing it essentially changes how other companies, sort of as an incredibly negative halo effect, it influences how other companies are going to act. And while I applaud Valve for responding to this, I did kind of want to see how things will change, particularly from the situation of Nexus. If Nexus adapted and changed their sort of model in contrast to Valve, that would have actually been a very interesting scene for the modding community. But no, Valve didn't go full retard, so I'm just very saddened now.
Well, Valve actually has a history of paying for mods. Have you heard of a game called Team Fortress 2, Joe? Have you heard of Dota 2?
No, I haven't, Brian.
Well, let me tell you. Dota 2 and Team Fortress 2 are online multiplayer games where two teams of players fight off against each other. But cosmetics are earned, sold, and rewarded in these games. Do you know where these cosmetics come from? They come from the community. Most of the hats, skins, clothing that the characters wear in Dota and Team Fortress are all mod made. The community then votes on the mods, and then Valve will pick the mods with the highest votes and make them official mods that can be bought and paid for by the community. And Valve takes their 25%. Valve a couple weeks ago announced how much money the Dota skin makers made last year. They made like over $60 million, which is a lot of money for people who just make hats. Yes, my statement is I wish this would have gone on longer than 4 days.
I can understand why there's a lot of trepidation. There were actually two major concerns I had with the whole paying for modding thing in general. The first one, and that was something that Paul Tassi mentioned, was essentially where a modder's sense, and this is also something that Alec mentioned, but where a modder's sense of ownership begins and where it ends. Because he mentioned Sky UI and how so many mods depended upon Sky UI. Another comparison would be if the developer for SKSE loader started charging, because almost every ENB setting out there, which is what they use to get those sweet high res Skyrim texture
sweet
mods.
High res mods.
Sweet high res mods. When you wanna go to a girl's house and bring your sweet Asus Maximus gaming laptop with you and show her how high def Skyrim is. So essentially, if they decide to start charging for that, essentially where the sense of ownership for someone who would work with a particular E and B setting. And there was actually an article. With a real life example on that. It was the fishing mod, if I recall. There was a fishing mod that depended upon a series of animations, and one of the parties didn't want to wanted. I don't remember the exact scenario, but one of the parties wanted to be paid for their work, whereas the other one just wanted to release it for free. So the situation was that it implied that if one of the parties was releasing it for free, then there's a possibility that they could just be losing out money to continue releasing it. But that's the first one. And the second one, and this is particularly based upon my experience playing around with mods, and I wrote about it in my Pause and Select article, but I started developing mods for Red Alert 2 a long time ago, in the ye olde yonder days when I was a creepy-ass neckbeard compared to now.
By the way, I'm glad you're reformed and a proper, upstanding member of the internet.
Yes, it's good. It's a good thing I am. I'm no longer a creepy-ass neckbeard. I'm just a creepy-ass neckbeard. Anyhow, so the second one that really worried me was that mods, when the amount of money, when money is put into the equation, mods essentially feel like microtransactions with very little to no quality assurance.
Well, the quality assurance is in the community, and you're assuming the best would float to the top.
Yeah, but the thing is that mods play a constant catch-up game. If Bethesda releases a patch that changes how a particular thing works, but that as an externality affects another mod, then if it doesn't work for you, and if the modder doesn't respond to it within a given amount of time, then you've essentially lost your money, because if I recall, the return policy was essentially 24 hours.
Yeah. That needed to be changed.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that I think is just a function of Valve not understanding exactly what they were doing. 24 hours isn't long enough to know if it fucking works.
They are smart people. They knew what they were doing. That was probably a fast one they were trying to pull. Paul Tassie's article, I believe last Saturday, on this topic, which is the one we're referencing. He also mentioned that mods kind of act as the developer fucked up, we're going to fix this. Bethesda is respected, but let's say a theoretical other developer comes along that isn't as generous.
I mean, Bethesda's respected, but they also fucking suck at doing things sometimes, like making Skyrim's UI.
But what I'm saying is, what if Bethesda said, hey, we're just going to put out a bare bones game, but we know we have this huge modding community following us, and they'll just mod in all this bullshit for us anyways, so why even bother? And then that's where the bullshit kind of arises, where Bethesda's getting free DLC because they might have intentionally left out content, knowing that the modding community added in everything that that Bethesda left out. And I don't think Bethesda intentionally left stuff out. It's just making a game of that size is a lot, and they couldn't get to everything,
I don't think that Bethesda is being so snaky as to leave shit out. No. And I don't think they would adopt that in the future, but it definitely does minimize their incentive to actually care about their quality assurance, especially given that they don't have a great track record of quality assurance in the first place. If you go to Nexus and you take a look at... If you go to Nexus before this whole mod kerfuffle, when Sky UI was still free, if you take a look at the top Skyrim mods, almost the top 100 Skyrim mods, they're essentially dominated by two main mod groups. One, incredibly shallow but very exciting hair mods, and two, interface fixes. Pretty much things that address bugs or balance issues or interface issues in Skyrim. And it's incredible, even if they're not intending it, it does feel from a consumer point of view incredibly shady and incredibly snaky to essentially say that, okay, I'm going to pay for this mod that is going to make this UI actually feel like it was developed for the PC. And Bethesda is going to make money because they're going to get a cut of that mod. So it just feels like you're paying the company more money to essentially do their job.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're intending that to happen, but for the future, it does make it more difficult to hold them accountable for that.
Yes. Most of the mods I employ are little touch-up mods like UI mods, dynamic weather, foliage mods. Some of the mods are very expansive, very big, add in content that is on the level of an actual Skyrim DLC. What's that? It's the famous mod that has garnered a lot of attention that adds in a whole new... Yeah, that's the one. That mod, you should pay $20 for that mod. That mod is worth $20.
Yeah, that mod is better than Bethesda's DLCs.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very big, very... This all makes me want to go play Skyrim again because that's a great game. It's a great game, and it's even better with the mods. You know what's also interesting is a lot of modders use mods as kind of an application process.
Yep.
IceFrog developed Dota 2 as a mod, and now he runs Dota 2 for Valve. So Valve has...
The original Dota?
Yeah, the original... Well, yeah. Dota was a mod, a user map settings, Warcraft 3, developed by a man named IceFrog. I don't know his real name.
I mean,
he is now
probably IceFrog.
Team
He's now
Fortress
employed by
is
Valve.
also a mod. You know, to your point earlier that you brought that up, like Team Fortress is a mod. You know, Counter-Strike is a mod.
Valve is a company built on mods. So Left 4 Dead is a mod as well. They are not making Half-Life 3 because it is more profitable for them to make modded games than it is for them to make Half-Life 3. I wish we had a little more time on this. I don't think it was that nefarious. Valve has earned my trust.
This is not the last hear of this, nor is this the last time we will discuss it.
Yes.
You know, this will be back. Like, they may have tried to contain Pandora's box, but they opened Pandora's box.
And there's no going back.
Yeah, no. It will only be contained for so long.
So, as we mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, the last month of podcasts have been light on events and news. Microsoft had a huge press conference called the Build.
Build is their big technical conference where they do things like announce Windows 10 and talk about all of that stuff. And honestly, what Microsoft is doing is really interesting, and I highly recommend that anyone who has any interest in sort of the future of operating systems or whatever should really go see what they're doing, like with Windows Continuum or whatever, and the fact that if you plug a Windows 10 phone into a monitor, it basically turns into a full PC, which is fucking nuts.
I agree. That's fucking the future. That's it right there.
I mean, Motorola tried something like that with their Atrix 5 years ago. That's too long ago. Maybe 4 years ago. But
it happens.
It wasn't. They were trying to shoehorn this concept onto onto Android, and it just didn't work. But Microsoft can make it work. Microsoft is the only company that could really make it work. Apple could, but they wouldn't, because that's not their model. Windows is, despite not being an open platform, is a more open platform than OS X is, and so they want Windows to be on every device going forward. And so you create an app and it functions on Windows PCs, Windows phones, Windows tablets, and their fucking holographic user interface, which apparently they're going to be showing off at E3. So HoloLens, I've been thinking a lot about VR lately, a lot.
Talked about it extensively here on the podcast.
Yeah. But I don't think VR is the future. I think AR is the future. And I think HoloLens is, and I have mentioned this, that I think HoloLens is a closer representation of the future than, the Oculus Rift. They showed off some of the things that it can do today. And it's like, holy fucking shit. This guy sits down in a chair and all across the wall are Windows apps that they did zero extra work on. it just like plasters itself to the wall. You're looking at it. You want it to be a tiny little screen. Cool. You want to make a screen like so you can watch a movie that fills up the entire wall. You can do that. You have the control to just like you take a blank wall and suddenly you can watch a movie on it. It could probably even be not a blank wall if you wanted it. You could probably put a painting up and just be like, you know what, for right now, I want to cover this painting with a digital screen because it's projecting it over reality, but like opaquely.
So what you're saying is, in 20 years, I'm not going to go to the movie theater. I'm just going to empty my wall of all the paintings and just.
Not even 20 years. Not even, no. Like
10 years. 10 years.
In 10 years, I absolutely think so. I mean, because realistically, that is closer to the future of the basic theater experience by all accounts. And so this is something that I'm excited about. IMAX has begun updating their thing with new projection technology that makes images look way fucking better by like jacking up the brightness and the contrast and using like multiple laser projectors simultaneously. And so it doesn't, it's not just a question of resolution, it's a question of like actual image quality improving it. And apparently it's the difference. It's basically the difference between, like a 2K projection and a 4K projection on a big screen. The difference between film and IMAX, like proper. It might be a 4K projection, but even though this screen is enormous, it looks so much better than anything you've ever seen in your life because this is what movies should look like. And until other theaters, sort of follow in those footsteps and take the plunge with these super expensive projectors, going to a movie theater, I went to one last night, like, theater experience is kind of whatever, but it's really, you're just going because the screen is bigger. And if I could, in VR or AR, look at a screen that feels like it's bigger, why wouldn't I do that?
I am very excited for this piece of tech. It was a big day for Microsoft, not just with this tech, but the apps they're allowing Android and Apple apps on Windows now.
Yeah, with very minor tweaks.
Yeah, and is Windows 10 free? It's free,
yes.
Right?
It's free for the first year for anyone who has Windows 7 or Windows 8.
This is the first time in the last 10 years Microsoft has made intelligent decisions about the future of their company. They used to operate just like Sony did. They used to operate from a stance of, fuck you, we're not going anywhere, we're just going to take it. And now they finally realize that we're vulnerable.
Yeah.
We need to actually innovate and create good stuff. Today, and potentially E3, could be a landmark transition for this company moving forward. I'm excited to see if they have software present at E3 for the Holo. But
yeah.
I'm more excited about the Holo than I ever have been of Google Glass.
I mean, it's what Google Glass wanted to be, basically, but...
Well, as we saw with the movie last night, let's not count Google out of this equation.
Yeah, right. We saw Ex Machina, which is, what happens if Google takes itself to the logical extreme. It's very interesting, and it's worth seeing. But that's I think, all I'm going to say about that.
It was a very good movie, very well shot, except for the dark scenes. But for the most part, it's all dialogue.
Convenient yet creepy future.
No, it wasn't even that creepy. It felt very real.
Yeah.
Especially the ending. I felt kind of joy at the ending.
Really?
Oh, well, obviously not for certain characters, but for one specific character, it was a new frontier.
Right.
So while Microsoft has announced all these new features and the plan for the future with apps and the Halo, and they're going to be
the Halo,
and they're going to be at E3 presenting all the.
Yes, I was at the Microsoft convention, and they announced the new apps in the Halo.
Another company has announced quite a few interesting things this week. Konami. Official.
Konami.
Kojima is officially... Yes. Konami has officially announced that Kojima is gone. Konami has officially announced that Silent Hills has been canceled. Konami has removed themselves from the New York Stock Exchange this week. What could possibly going on at Konami?
Clusterfuck. Joe,
Yeah.
you watched that video by Super Bunny Hop. What do you think?
Yeah, Joe, tell us about that.
Okay, pretty much I am in full agreement with Super Bunny Hop, so my thoughts are essentially just going to be his video paraphrased. For anybody listening to this, I strongly
Paraphrase
recommend...
the fuck out of that video. Where's this video? I'll link it in the comments if you put it in.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it too. It's super interesting, and he admits that a lot of it is based on unnamed sources. It certainly fucking sounds plausible, especially with what has happened since.
Yeah, so I would just like to preface this. My opinion here is essentially just going to be Super Bunny Hop's video, just incredibly summarized. But the main thing here is that there are essentially three things, I would probably say three things, to keep in mind regarding this whole Konami incident. The first one here is that video games do not consist of the primary revenue for Konami. They are not the biggest money makers. Two, the cultural and corporate the corporate culture for Konami is a very, very Japanese. No, I guess there are just 2 points because I don't know what a third one would be. So essentially, what's happening here is that it's likely that Konami is essentially going to milk all of their their major game franchises. They're probably going to milk it essentially to death, and they're going to transition from digital entertainment, which is what the Metal Gear Solid games, Metal Gear games, and Dance Dance Revolution games, what they're all under. And they're going to move that into essentially into gambling, where they're constructing slots and pachinko machines and all that sort of stuff. But the big thing here is that they're sort of strangely hedging their bets at the moment. They're heavily favoring gambling. But because gambling is illegal in Japan, they're essentially trying to push their hardest to make sure that it becomes legalized. It's essentially a very strange ego play on behalf of the CEO of Konami, who was also the founder. So there's never actually been a change in leadership or general corporate mission statement.
Which is a problem. I mean, if Yamauchi still, headed up Nintendo, that company would never have gotten... it would have never modernized at all.
Yeah, and I feel Nintendo's also at another constant point with Miyamoto, but that's... Joe, go ahead.
Oh no, that was pretty much it.
Oh, that
summarized.
was it?
I told you I was going to give a summarized version of that video. I'd strongly recommend anybody interested within the subject to...
I found the video.
It's a very interesting video.
It is.
The video
It is
will be
super
in the
interesting.
link. The video will be in the link. I did not realize that pachinko machines were illegal in Japan.
As far as I recall, they fall more under personal entertainment. The pachinko machines are they're not in the same class as like slot machines when we conceive of them as gambling. They're more like, like crane claw machines that you see at like grocery stores and shit.
Yeah, that's what they fall under.
That's what they probably fall under.
Yeah.
Like, as far as I can recall, that's more like what they're considered as.
Are accepted, but slot machines are like the big thing that aren't. And one of the things that Super Bunny Hop points out is that there are contra slot machines. Konami is taking their properties and turning them into gambling properties, but they can't really do anything domestically with them right now, and so they're pushing to fucking fix that.
There is a legal battle going on in Japan to legalize gambling in that country.
Yep.
And
Konami is one of the companies trying to get it legalized, which
that's
is really
kind of fucked up. I also said that Konami delisted themselves from the New York Stock Exchange.
Mm-hmm.
That is distressing and interesting. So Kojima, I'm assuming, is leaving because he does not agree with Konami's path.
Yeah, or he feels like he's being abused or whatever. I mean... Which
is probable.
Yeah, I'm sure it's true.
And this is, by the way, I said it last week and the week before, this does not at all raise any hopes I have for the new Metal Gear game.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see if it feels like a game, because it could feel like a thank God this is over. I'm going to make this the best thing, or it could be I need to get out of this fucking company and I'm just going to finish the game so that happens.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what happens. They did pull PT from PlayStation today, and the big news is PlayStation PT pre-installed on PlayStation 4s on eBay are selling for like $1,500.
$1,800 is the highest one I saw.
Yeah,
It's insane.
but that's insane. I'm hoping the internet will find a way to preserve that game. It is
I don't
an
know.
artifact of history.
I mean, it's been preserved in 1,000 Let's Plays.
Most horror games are games you have to play to fully appreciate them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you're watching The Last of Us or BioShock and getting the plot. Horror games are all about nuance and how it directly impacts you as you're playing it.
Yeah,
And
usually
PT
when you watch a horror game Let's Play, it turns into a comedy.
Yeah, exactly. PewDiePie is the king of making horror games not scary. It's a personalized experience in the way that movies are not. In a movie, you close your eyes, and within an hour, that movie will be over. PT, the only way to get to the end is to actually do it. So we'll see what the fallout of Konami delisting themselves on the stock exchange is.
I don't even know that there will be fallout. What I think that just means is that they're just gonna like leave
America behind?
Yeah, like they're just gonna go to Japanese gambling, and that's just what they're gonna do.
Which is fucked up.
But on some level, who gives a fuck? Aside from Metal Gear, what do they have?
Nothing. They don't have anything besides Metal Gear. And I tell you
exactly.
what, Metal Gear,
Yep.
I've grown up my whole life playing Metal Gear games. And I am looking forward to this final game, but I do not think it's going to be amazing. But it is still the end of a franchise for me.
Yeah.
And I need to see to the end. And it's kind of like with Sega. Sega, as I grew up as a child, was this great company. They had pretty good games, a great system, and now, 20 years later, it's just this, they're irrelevant. And Konami will be relevant, and just,
Yeah, I get that. But Konami, as they currently exist, they will not be missed. You know?
No, you're right, they will not be missed. But here's the weird thing. So last year, they did not go to E3, but they still paid for and held their E3 booth space. So at E3, there was a giant Konami booth, which was nothing but a wall surrounding X amount of square feet, and on the inside was nothing. So Konami theoretically could be going back to E3. We'll find out.
Know. I guess we'll find out.
E3's in what? 6 weeks? 8 weeks?
Is it that soon?
Yeah, dude.
Oh shit.
On the same notes of Konami, let's jump into our new section of news. The Ouya announced that they're for sale. Except they didn't publicly announce it. They kind of did it on the down low. Ouya is famous for raising $8.5 million on Kickstarter, and then they received up to $15 to $20 million from private investors. Are you too shocked that Ouya is for sale?
No.
I'm not either. Joe?
So I think what happens is when you decide to transition to talking about the Ouya, I think you should play the song "Oh Yeah" by Yellow.
I don't think we'll have the rights for that, but Joe, can you
just play the clip where it just says "Oh yeah"?
Oh yeah! There you go, Joe. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyhow, I wasn't paying attention to the question. What was it?
Ouya is trying to recover as much investor capital.
Ouya's for sale. No one gives a shit. The Joker pictures leaked this week. They look like shit. Kyle said they look like a rejected Devil May Cry character. Alec, you disagree? Go ahead.
Yeah. I disagree if the tattoos are ironic.
Just remove damages from the forehead, and I'm probably going to be fine with it.
Right. I mean, a lot of people just really hate forehead tattoos. So I write for the site called Flixist, and one of our writers, who's much smarter than I am, did this awesome series of images with, if other superheroes had forehead tattoos. Batman's daddy issues. It's honestly a really great post, and I think everyone should go to Flixes.com and look at that. You don't have to look.
I could put it in the links if you link it to me.
Yes, I will. I'll do that now. You don't have to read anything else. I think whatever, but no, it's great. And I highly recommend that post. It's one of the better things I've seen on the internet lately. And I've seen Joe's Winnie the Pooh's Home Run Derby review, which
by
amazing.
the way, is amazing.
Yes.
I agree if the tattoos are ironic.
Yes.
Because the Joker is supposed to be insane, but he's acutely aware that he's insane, so the whole thing is kind of a fucking joke.
Yeah.
But the pictures look like what a middle-class person thinks a punk looks like, and that's not what the Joker is. Like, I accept changes in the character, but the one thing you have to get in the character is he is aware of how much bullshit is around him, and so he exemplifies that.
What I'm really hoping is that Suicide Squad is just 30 hours long, and it's just real time, the Joker just getting a bunch of tattoos, and everyone else in the Suicide Squad being like, so, Joker, when are we gonna do some stuff? And he's just like, ha 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 ha, I'm gonna get a tattoo that says damaged.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I guess it also comes down to how Jared Leto plays that Joker.
Leto.
It's Leto.
It is Leto. I thought it was Leto for the longest time. I mean, I trust Jared Leto as an actor, like, a lot.
He's pretty good.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
And he really gets into his roles, like, a lot.
Like Jesus? Like, he was Jesus for, like, the last 2 years.
He got, he loses weight, he, fucks up his body, he does whatever he has to do to get into his roles. And so, like, whatever his vision of the Joker is going to be realized, and I'm sure it will be realized very well. The question is that vision of the Joker inherently compelling, and that's really the question. He will make it work, whatever it is, but if he's going down the wrong track, then it doesn't matter if it's the best performance in the world.
I've always liked him as an actor more than I've liked him as a musician, so I'm kind of glad that he's full on going back to acting. Because it seemed for like 10 years he was just, we're kings and queens, I'm 30 Seconds to Mars and stuff.
I like 30 Seconds to Mars for what
I
it's
like
worth.
it too, but I always felt he was a better actor than he was a musician.
That's fair.
So I'm glad. I was happy when they announced he was the Joker. Mm-hmm. I'm not happy with how they're presenting him as the Joker.
Right.
I hope it's just some bullshit, full-on, bright light shot of him.
Yeah, I mean, that's a problem, too, that it's just like there's no way there will ever be a single moment in that movie
where he looks like that.
That looks like that. Because, especially because, DC movies are just fucking, dark as shit.
Let's get to the DC is dark as shit. I really like that compared to Marvel. Like, I like Marvel movies, and I like DC movies. I like the dark grittiness of the DC movies. I might be rare in saying that I liked the last Superman movie. I feel excited about the new Superman movie.
Yes,
where
you're
the Marvel movies,
not a lot of people.
Exactly, and the Marvel movies are very bright and vibrant. Almost.
You should read an article. The Hollywood Reporter just released an article about DC's issues that they're going through right now because of the way they're structuring.
Link it up and I'll put it in the links, dude.
Yep, I'm just sending you the link right now. But like the issue is that because they're ostensibly giving people a lot of leeway to write the narrative that they want, they're having trouble creating a consistent cinematic universe. Whereas, Marvel has an iron grip over Marvel movies, and so there's consistency there whether you like it or not.
Well, which, by the way, is crazy because Marvel has basically planned out all of their movies over the next 10 years.
Well, so has DC.
Yeah, but Marvel's movies flow in a continuum, which is what you kind of just said.
Right.
Also, that plan has had a negative impact on Avengers Age of Ultron, which doesn't fit the Marvel plan. Have you noticed how much Joss Whedon flack has happened this week on social media?
A ton.
This could be the last Joss Whedon Marvel movie we see. I think he's being blamed.
I think he said he doesn't want to do another one. What's interesting is that apparently the original cut of Avengers Age of Ultron was 3.5 hours.
His cut?
Yeah, Joss Whedon. Well, I mean, like the first one, and then they cut out like 70 minutes. And the people who I know who have seen it, a lot of them said it probably was a better movie.
I know we talked about this last week. This movie, much like Dark Knight Returns and Dark Knight Rises, this movie has to make $1 billion or it'll be a failure. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be dumbed down to the lowest common denominator as possible to get that money.
Right.
But at this point, I kind of trust Marvel more than I trust Joss Whedon.
I mean, that's fair.
I want to see... Joss Whedon has done good work in the past. Firefly is an excellent example. But for the most part, he is kind of like J.J. Abrams, where he comes up with an idea and then abandons it after he creates it.
Mm-hmm.
And we will just have to wait and see. But I kind of get the feeling that the internet and, to some extent, Marvel is pushing blame for the averageness of the Avengers Age of Ultron onto Joss Whedon. Whether that's fair or not, I can't say until I see the movie.
I mean, it's probably not fair, regardless, especially if the movie he wanted to make is 70 minutes longer than the movie that got released. It's like when they released the 2-hour cut of Once Upon a Time in America, and like they totally changed it, and everyone's like, this movie is not very good. And then they're like, oh, it was supposed to be 5 hours long and totally differently structured? Oh. Well, I guess it wasn't Sergio Leone's fault that it sucked.
Well, Sergio Leone was
a much better filmmaker than Joss Whedon, but like
he's probably the best director of all.
One of them. But you get my point.
I hold him in very high regard.
As you should. But like that's the point is that the director's cut frequently is more interesting, even if it's not always better, because when you cut that much of a director's vision out of a movie, what you're left with is an inconsistent vision because you're not seeing what you're supposed to be seeing. Yeah. And so that can lead to, things that appear to be tonal issues or script issues that were addressed in this grand vision that just hit the cutting room floor for...
Well, that gets back to what I was saying before, so Marvel created this new timeline. And that timeline does not include Age of Ultron. So this movie, they had to cut a lot of what Joss Whedon did to make it adhere to the new timeline. And the new timeline is Thanos and Civil War. So a lot of this movie focuses on Civil War and leading up to that.
Right.
Age of Ultron, from what I understand, the first movie made a shitload of money, and Marvel said, we need to get a sequel out as soon as possible. Fucking do it. And that's what happened. And then they said, oh, we're now doing Thanos, Civil War, and this grand design. They are showing more restraint with Star Wars. The new Star Wars movie comes out this year. Apparently, Star Wars Episode 8 is not coming out until 2019, which is 4 years from now, which is more time between Avengers and Avengers 2. So hopefully they learn from this mistake. I know a lot of people in Europe who don't even listen to this podcast have seen the movie by now. Anyways, here in the States, I don't know about internationally, on Sunday night, ESPN2 was playing Heroes of the Storm, Blizzard's tournament called Heroes of the Dorm. Did anyone watch it? I don't even have cable TV.
Yeah, I don't either. But it is interesting that happened.
Yeah, I find it incredibly interesting. It's a step towards legitimacy for esports.
Because I know that, like, part of the international was shown on...
on ESPN 3, which is their online version.
Right, exactly. And this is one of their actual cable ones, which is cool.
This only garnered about 100,000-ish viewers, which is the equivalent of what a Twitch stream of the same tournament would garner.
Uh-huh.
But the game, Heroes of the Storm, is still in closed beta.
Right.
Like, if League of Legends was on, or Dota was on, it might have gotten maybe more viewers. Apparently, the League of Legends international tournament last year had 75 million viewers at one time, which is 75 million viewers is a lot of people. I'm glad ESPN is being very proactive towards this, especially when their presenters are not. But I watched some of the broadcasts online, and it was very good. The casters they have are excellent, Artosis and Tasteless. Joe, do you follow esports at all?
Nope.
Alec, I guess you don't either. I follow esports. I think it's great. I'm happy to see that it's evolving. Yeah, we're running to the end of this thing. Anyone got anything else to add?
No, I mean that seems about right to me.
Yeah, it's been a long cast today. Thanks everyone for listening. Thank you very much for This Is My Joystick for being so
pleasant.
Yeah, exactly. This could have gone a lot differently than it had. We apologize to those on Reddit. Everything else, we are here to just bullshit and talk to you guys. The fact that this happened is baffling.
Pause and Select was founded by, some people who, had worked together, were friends and just wanted to just fucking write about video games. And the idea that one of us would just take other people's writing about games is like, it doesn't compute, but,
it doesn't make sense.
But the rest of us, you can say a lot of probably not great things about us, but at least we're fucking genuine.
Yeah. We're full of shit, but we're genuinely full of shit. Joe, toss out the email for people to get in contact with us.
What?
Toss out the email in our Twitter. At Pause and Select for Twitter and our email. Toss out our email so people can email us.
If you are Squarespace and want to get in contact with us, Pause and Select, you can contact us at Please contact us at Pause and Select at contact@pauseandselect.com. That, again, Squarespace. If you would like to contact us at Pause and Select.
Contact us at squarespace@pauseandselect.com.
Pauseandselect.com. Squarespace, please contact us. If you are anybody who is not Squarespace and would like to contact us, please contact us at Pause and Select at contact@pauseandselect.com.
Wouldn't it be amazing if our email was actually Squarespace@pauseandselect.com?
We should do that. We should make Squarespace@pauseandselect.com and tweet at Squarespace and say, hey, you wanna
Squarespace.
You wanna get in on this?
Also this week we know Joe put up his Winnie the Pooh baseball. I put up my shitty. I found out where I live in the crew. And we're gonna have a couple. Alex sucks at video games, and Joe's gonna play Frog Fractions sometime this week.
Disney, if you would like to, Disney, I know you're listening to this, Disney. If you would like to sponsor me for esports, please contact me at Squarespace at pauseandselect.com. Again, that is Disney. Please contact me. I need money.
Yo, he's hella good at what's his face.
I am very good at Winnie the Pooh Home Run Derby.
At
Please
Ultimax,
contact
come on.
Hey!
Disney,
next week I'm playing Splatoon.
Oh, awesome. So,
Nice.
Next Wednesday. So the next time we do this podcast, I will have just come from playing Splatoon.
Yeah.
Nice.
So hopefully by next Wednesday, this podcast will be up. We'll have an episode of Alex Sucks At. Joe will have played Frog Fractions, and Brian might have some other videos up too. Who knows? We're all fucking lazy. So, Alec, what'd you learn this week?
I learned that Frog Fractions exists. I've played it. That's
fucking, you
stupid.
played that game.
Yeah,
So
it's a
what'd
good
you
game.
learn this week? Joe, what'd you learn this week?
Squarespace, if you would like to sponsor us, please sponsor us. You can contact us at Pause and Select. Contact us at Pause and Select at contact@pauseandselect.com. Please give us money, Squarespace.
And I learned, you know what? Fuck it. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Awesome.
Do you mind if I smoke?
It won't affect the test.